In our last episode, we talked about models, submodels, groups, and views. And in this episode, we're ready to start talking about sequencing. So when you start sequencing for the light show, you're going to need to pick out a song. That's step one. You'll probably want multiple songs, but we'll start with one song. We'll do a sequence for a song, and then you can do another sequence for another song. We'll add those songs into a playlist, and then we'll talk about playlists and how to set up a schedule and that kind of stuff. But in this episode, we're just going to be talking about sequencing. So for sequencing, first you're going to start with a song. We need to pick out a song. Then we're going to create timing marks so that we have a visual of when the beats are, but also when certain instruments play certain notes. That way we can line up effects to not only just the beats, but also to notes and to different instruments. Then we're going to visualize what we want the display to look like. After we assign the marks, then you're going to decide, well, how do I want this song to look? How do I want sections of the song to look? Do you want the lights to flash to the beat? Do you want them to mimic one of the instruments? Do you want to just capture a general feel of part of the song? So you'll want to, if the song has lyrics, you may want to pay attention to what the lyrics are talking about and try to make the lights mimic the scene that the words are painting a picture of. And then we're going to just play around with some effects, see what looks good on different models, different sections, because not all of the effects are going to look good on everything. Also, if you add an effect and it doesn't look good, there's a lot of settings you can change to make it look better. We'll also talk about how to slow down and loop part of the song so that you can hear it multiple times and be able to fine tune and be more precise with your sequencing. And then we'll also talk about some keyboard shortcuts, what there are already built in, but we may even decide that we want to add a keyboard shortcut. If you can learn some of the keyboard shortcuts and figure out a good way to work within the program, it'll really speed up your sequencing. So I hope you find this video interesting. Let's go ahead and jump onto the computer. I'll do a screenshot so you can see what I'm doing on there, and I'll see you in a bit. One of the first things we need to do is pick a song, because that's the whole point of sequencing our lights. So when you pick a song, you're going to want to pick something that you think would be fun to sequence to lights or just fun to listen to. Now, one thing I'd like to see in a future release of xLights is the ability to add more than one audio track. So you could have two audio tracks and maybe have some editing features there. So after you're done with your models and submodels and you've created groups, it's now time to do some sequencing. So if you go over to the sequencer tab, you don't have a view, you don't see any of your models or submodels, and you don't have a song. So what you need to do is create a new sequence. And we can do that a couple different ways. There's this, it looks like a piece of paper with writing on it. That's a new sequence, or you can do File, New Sequence. Or it looks like Command N will also create a new sequence. Okay, when you create a new sequence, you can choose if you want just a plain animation or if you want to add an audio track, so you can do a musical sequence. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And the music we want to pick, you need to know where you saved it on your computer. After you pick a song, you can choose your frames per second. I usually choose 40 frames per second because I like to be pretty exact, pretty on the beat with my sequencing. Some people will argue that you don't need more than 20 frames per second, but I always pick 40 frames per second. And then at this point, I usually just do quick start. Okay, the next thing that happens is you'll see your WAV file at the top of your sequencer, and that's as long as you're going to have to do your sequencing. And then your view, right now it's selected to master view, and that shows you everything. And anytime you see this icon on the side of one of your models or submodels or groups, that means that if you double click it, it'll expand
and you'll see more stuff open up. So every time you see that, you can open it up. Once you get to the lowest level, you won't have that icon anymore. Okay, so for the view, I like to use a custom view. And we talked about creating views in the last episode. But for this, I'm going to use a view that I called all groups. I mean, just know that you can customize your views and your groups however you want. Next thing we want to talk about is some keyboard shortcuts or key bindings. Here are some key bindings that are already created. I made a little spreadsheet here with the function, what the key will do, or what the keyboard shortcut or key binding will do. There's a short description of what it does, and then the actual shortcut. And there's multiple columns here. So to add a timing mark, you can just hit T on the keyboard. Now, if you go down here, if you want to zoom in, you're going to hold down the shift. So the T in that column stands for true. I didn't put all the falses in. I only put where it was true that you're going to hold down the shift key or the control key or the alt key. So to zoom in on your sequence, you can hold down shift and the plus button on your keyboard. And then there's different effects that you can add with a keyboard shortcut. So just being aware of these keyboard shortcuts may help you out in speeding up the process. And then I actually added my own keyboard shortcut. And the way you do that, in your show folder, in the folder where your sequences are saved, there should be a file called xLights keybindings.xml. And that's a file that you can edit. You can add to it, or you can change things. Once you edit it, you can add your own keyboard shortcuts. And I used a program on my Mac. I downloaded a program called Brackets, which is a text editor. Okay, we also want to talk about this plugin. It's an xLights Queen Mary Vamp plugin. And what that lets you do is add different timing marks. And that helps you when you're adding effects so that you can add them to certain notes in the song or to like beats. And I'll include links to this in the description. Okay, back to xLights. So we have this song. Next thing we want to do is add a timing track. Now we have this one. It's called New Timing. And one thing we can do, and I'm going to zoom in right now. So Shift plus lets me zoom in. And then when I hit the space bar, that should toggle play. Okay, and it does. And if I hit it again, it stops it. So I can hit the space bar and then start tapping the letter T to add timing marks. Okay, I'm going to stop it there. Now I could go through the whole song and do it that way. That's just manually adding timing marks. There's other ways that you can add timing marks. And the way you add a new timing track is you right click when your cursor's over here by your view. You right click and then you can add a timing track. And then this window pops up and right now it's empty. So that would be the same thing as what I just had. It was an empty timing track. Or since I installed that plugin, it gives me these different options. One of the ones I like for this song, and I've already sequenced to this song, is this Polyphonic Transcription. And what that does is it adds timing marks for different notes that it recognizes. And since I don't have drums or a steady beat to my song, this to me is the most helpful for this song. Click OK, and then I can give it a name. I'm just gonna leave it as Polyphonic Transcription, and then click OK. And it'll analyze the audio. It doesn't take very long, and it's processing it. And there we go. So it's drawn a line for every, I don't know what exactly it looks for, but it's for all of the notes. And I don't know why some of the lines are darker or dimmer and others are brighter. But now I have both of these enabled, both of the timing tracks enabled. You don't have to have them all enabled at a time. If you just click on them, then those lines go away. So if you just want to work with the polyphonic transcription, just enable that. And when you zoom in, you can see where it put lines. And it'll make more sense when you play the song. So let's go ahead and play the song. So it's looking like it has lines for the banjo, and it has marks for the keyboard. So it's put in a good amount of marks there. So that's going to help us when we add effects. Now, one thing I've noticed with the polyphonic transcription, even though it has all these marks, when you go to add an effect, and you add an effect just by clicking around, and then you can use one of those keyboard shortcuts. So I made one, Option F adds fill, and that's adding a fill to the branches. And you'll notice that it's starting down here with white and it goes up to red. And up here, it has the colors that are selected. If I select more colors, it adds more colors. And with this effect, it looks like it goes in the order that you have the colors. So if you wanted to rearrange these colors, you'd actually have to go in and change. You'd have to go in and change the color here if you wanted a different order. At least that's how I understand it. It would be nice if you could drag these around if you wanted a different order, rather than having to open it up and then selecting a different color. Okay, so we have that fill. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Okay, so once we have our timing marks, then we want to, well, you can listen to the whole song. You want to be familiar with the song. And then you kind of want to have an idea of what you want your overall visual to look like. For this song, I want to start with the bass. I want to sequence to the bass first, and then we'll add in the banjo, and then I'll add in the keyboard. So right now I'm going to focus on listening to the bass and hear what that does. Now, in order to do that, I want to listen to, I'll do like the first little bit. Okay, I just want to listen to that part. So if I click and drag on the audio, I can loop this part just by clicking the replay section button. So it starts with a bass note, and then it hits a higher note and it slides down into that original note. So it's just kind of a drone. Boom, boom. So what I want to do, I like the color red for bass. Now I'm colorblind, so I don't know if you have the same opinion as me, but I like red with bass. Well, I'm not completely colorblind. I'm red-green colorblind, but I like red with bass. So what I want to do, I'm looking at the snowflake here, and I see a circle around and then the star. I think I want to light up the circle and the star in red for that first bass note. And I know circle 6 is the outside one. So if I just want to do so I put in a fill, and I'm just going to do red. And then that's going to be red all the way until it hits that other bass note. Looks like it starts here. Okay, I don't want it just to be red and stay that way. I want it to, when the bass hits, I just want it to be on, but then at the end I want it to fade out a little bit. So up here we have an out transition, and it's set to fade. And we'll try a 1 second fade, and we'll see what that looks like. You'll see this red bar. That's how long it's going to take to fade out. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so it fades out, and then I want it to hit again, but since it's kind of a hit and a fall, let's see if we can do a morph here, which is M. So I added in a morph. Let's see what that does. So that morph comes from the top and it goes down. Let's see what that looks like with the music. Okay, and to me, that bass note is hitting a little bit earlier. So I'm gonna switch to polyphonic and maybe inch that over a little bit. Okay, and I want that to take longer going down. So I could stretch that out. I only want it to last till there because that's when the next That's when the next fill comes in. Now, if you want an exact duplicate of the previous one, you can select that, hold Command C to copy, Command V to paste. Let's see what this looks like. So I have that bass, and then I'll repeat that. I'm going to repeat that all the way. But in the meantime, I want to select both of these and also apply it to our star. So in order to select it, I have to turn, for some reason, I have to turn off the timing tracks. And then when I drag, it gives me this dotted rectangle, and I can select effects. And then I can do Command C to copy, and then I can go back up to, well, put that timing track back in, and I want to add it to the star. So I'll click there and then Command V to paste. And now if I remember, I'm going to have to flip the morph. The star is upside down, but let's see what this looks like. Yeah, the star's going up and the circle's going down. So I'm going to have to select the star and swap start and end points. I think that'll do it. There, now they're both going down. Now, so that's the bass. I'm going to keep on repeating that for this whole intro. The next thing I want to do is I want to do something with the tips and the banjo. I'm going to use the middle tips to make the banjo notes. So listen to the banjo for this first part. Okay, there's only a few notes, but it starts low and it works its way up. Now my tips, I know the tips 1 start at these are tips 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I want to actually start at 4. I'm just going to work on the left side, and then I'm going to copy and paste everything to the right side. So I'll start with this tip right here, which is 4, 2. And I'm going to go to the banjo notes. So we're just going to repeat this part. And here's something useful that you can use is slowing down the audio. So if you click audio, you can play it at 3/4 speed. Okay, and then you can let that play, but we're just going to use fill. So Alt F was my shortcut. Okay, and we want that to be a light blue. So let's pick, and then I want to just copy that. And the next one's going to be on 3/2. Now it's not letting me line it up with that mark. Okay, I can paste it. And then with the arrow keys, I can move it over. It's kind of annoying that these marks are, okay, I'm going to pause that. Bum 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 bum. I'll make a new loop here. Okay, that's the highest note, so I'll put that up here. Second highest note. And then maybe that last one I'll have ring out a little bit. So to copy all those, because we're going to copy them, and I think the whole thing repeats. So we'll deselect our timing marks, and then we'll select all of this. Just click and drag. Command C to copy it. And then let's play this loop. Okay, let's add that polyphonic transcript back in. So the copying and pasting is kind of tedious. So I think I just have to randomly pick over there and then select it all, turn that back on, and then, yeah, with the arrows, I can slide them over. And then let's... Okay, so that banjo isn't exactly the same as before. If you want it to be exactly the same, you're going to have to slide these around. Okay, so that should be pretty good. Let's see what we have so far. And then I'm going to change it to full speed. Okay, so it looks pretty good so far. Next thing I need to do is, I did the left side, so now I have to do the right side. So I'm going to copy those from 4.2, and I want to make that there at 5.2. And then I'm going to copy. Now, if I was doing this for the whole song, I might do the whole left side of the snowflake and then copy that whole line and shift it down. Command C to copy that line. Turn on your timing marks. It's not letting me select right there, so I'm going to have to paste it and turn off the timing marks, select it, turn it back on, and then use the arrow keys. There's some room for improvement here. Okay, 1.2 is going to be mirrored at 8.2. And in order to see it all, I'm going to change my view slightly. So 8.2, let me turn on my timing marks, see if it'll let me. Oh, it looks like I might luck out on that one. And then the last one, copy that, turn on the timing marks. This is 2.2, so that's going to be at 7.2. Okay, that should mirror it pretty good. So let's re-render and watch what we have. As you can see, this is going to take a lot of time. The next thing I'm going to do is add in accents for the piano parts. And this is the intro. Since there's no words going on, I'm just doing all to the instruments. If you wanted, you could just slap an effect on the whole model and just have the effect go with the beat. I think this is kind of fun for this section, so I'm taking the time to light up exactly what I want lit up. And notice I'm only using a couple different kinds of effects here. So hopefully that gets you started. If I wanted to add an effect to the whole snowflake, I could do that. Let's say I wanted to add a fan to everything. Okay, right now that doesn't look very impressive, but I can change some settings on it. Let's see. We can change the radius and make it larger. We can change the revs to make it slower. You can add blades, or you can stretch out the effect so it's slower. You could also change the colors. Let's see if I do this one. So that looks pretty cool with just one effect on the whole snowflake. Now it's not hitting the circle, so maybe I need to make it bigger to hit the circle. There we go. Or if I want it smaller, I can do that. So that's just one effect on the whole model, and you can change stuff and light things up. So if you're doing a whole house, maybe you don't want to light up each individual section, but it does give you some ideas of what you can do with these submodels and groups and things like that. I've already set this snowflake to the music. I've already sequenced the whole thing. So let me show you that, and you can kind of see what it looks like, what the finished product looks like. Well, I hope this is enough information to get you guys started with sequencing. It is a process that takes some patience, but the end results are pretty fun. All right, we'll see you in the next episode.